So maybe explainable AI and this emphasis in the discipline in the past 5 years, especially the past 3 years, it's everywhere. Maybe this highlights that we are in a summer of AI, but maybe it's becoming too hot. and you know what happens when things just are too good, then maybe we may enter an autumn or something, especially because we don't trust AI. And so let's talk a little bit about the implications and the future of AI, and especially in this moment, in this sweet moment of AI where everybody is interested, but of course everybody is worried about AI. We have a lot of young AI researchers where machine learning is everything, or even some people say deep learning is everything. So some other areas of AI, they don't really care. And our colleague, Luke de Wright, says that a few years ago, probably you and him and some other people said there's a lot of reasoning, and perhaps we need more learning, even if learning is reasoning. We were talking about that, but maybe a lot of deduction and not that much induction. And now perhaps we need more reasoning, and not only. And you were talking about optimization, and we're in this Taylor network that takes some of the acronym takes about these kind of trinity of AI, which would be reasoning, learning, and optimization. So do you think these three components are key components, or how do you see these elements being more or less emphasized in the future and integrated in the end?
Yeah, I am part of the Taylor network, and I think it's, it tries to integrate things more rather than separate. And we, as I said before, we humans naturally separate into factions and subgroups. So, it's always harder to integrate things. And I think, but it's important. So I really support, the ambitions of the network. But of course, if you say I want to integrate learning, optimization, and reasoning, you're talking about groups of people. You're talking about the approaches. You're talking about methods. The real world doesn't need integrating learning. The real world is already integrated. It presents itself to us as one integrated thing, right? So it's sometimes we need to remind ourselves that. Yeah, classification problems don't occur in the real world. These are abstractions that we impose on the world to help us understand the world and so on. And I think AI people, because I've often been wondering why aren't there summers and winters in mathematics or in chemistry, or what is it about AI, about this hype cycle? And it's strange, right? It's something extrinsic. Well, maybe it is intrinsic to the topic, but it's also it tells us something about how we do things, right? And we have this unrealistic. The first Dartmouth conference in what was it, 1956 or so? Didn't John McCarthy say, well, we need to work on this for a summer, and then probably we have a chess playing program that could beat the world champion and so on, and here we are. Deep Blue has beaten the world champion, but although there's a bigger story there as well, and there's psychology there, and now AlphaGo. So we are making that process. It did take 40 or 50 years, not one summer. So, but yeah, I think integration is important of whatever kind. We need more people who just think, hang on a moment, I've been working in my little niche for long enough, I'm now going to look what is outside. Unfortunately, the academic system doesn't really support this, because how do you become a professor? Well, you need your own niche and your own group and your own kind of research program. So it's baked right into the academic system, I think, to kind of separate into disciplines and subdisciplines and so on. So I think it's also true that people like Luke and me and you, we are fortunate enough that we have our professorship, and we that changes the dynamics a little bit, and we feel that we're in a safe enough position to reflect on these things and try not to chase the next best paper award and so on. But you can't really blame young people because they see all these what they perceive as role models who do exactly that. And so I think we need to think about what is it, what do we teach our young, clever, brilliant PhD students, you know, and we need to remind them, okay, you see certain things and certain things are successful. You may want to think a little bit before you want to emulate that, because you will end up as somebody who is very... My father used to say that somebody who has a PhD is somebody who knows a lot about very little.
Okay.
And there is some truth to that, right? And so I see it as a privilege to be able to be in a position to then say, okay, I can broaden out a little bit. I can go back to the big questions